Hi, my name is Sophie Edwards, and in my poster today, we're going to be talking about explicit metacognitive awareness for enhanced processing strategies. The generation effect refers to the finding that we tend to remember generated words better than words that we have simply just read. In their study from 2004, Dewar, Stanley, and Bjork proposed that participants might be improving their learning of read words, presumably due to participants utilizing more effective strategies for the encoding of read words during subsequent study blocks as a result of experiencing the generation effect. However, previous literature doesn't really give us a clear answer as to whether participants are consciously aware of this improvement effect. As you can see in this image right here, participants go through a two-block mixed-list paradigm in which they're presented with cued target pairs alternating between read and generated words. And then they go through a cued recall test. And this is the same for both block 1 and block 2. And then over here in this figure to the right, this is depicting the general findings of recall for read and generated items for both block 1 and block 2. And you can see right here in block 1 that generated items are typically recalled higher than the read items, and this is the generation effect. But critically, in the second block, the difference between words is attenuated. So the purpose of this current study was to analyze why this attenuation occurs, or in other words, after experiencing the generation effect in block 1, are participants utilizing more effective strategies for the encoding of read words in order to increase their recall of read words to those of the generated words in the second block? And we assess this by using self-report data for strategy usage at the end of the experiment. So we asked participants 3 questions, the first being, which words did you remember better on the first test? And participants were then given the 3 answer options of either read, generated, or remembered equally. We then asked the same question, but pertaining to the words that they felt that they remembered better on the second test with the same 3 answer options. And then lastly, we asked, did you change study strategies between the first and second blocks? And as you can see up here in this figure on the top right, we're going to be analyzing the recall for read and generated words for those who switched and didn't switch on both block 1 and block 2. So over here on the left side of this graph, we're going to be looking at participants who reported switching strategies between the blocks. And you can see that on block 1, for those who reported switching strategies, their overall recall was lower than those who didn't switch. But in the second block, those who did report switching strategies had a greater attenuation of the generation effect in block 2, whereas those who didn't switch had a lower attenuation of the generation effect. And so this could presumably be due to participants switching strategies between the blocks in order to increase the recall of their read items to those of generated. However, whenever we looked at the subjective memory reports of which word was remembered better during block 1, we can see that a third of participants said that they remembered read words better, a third of participants reported that they remembered generated words better, and a third of participants reported that they remembered both words equally. And so with this, we can see that 2/3 of the participants were incorrect in their judgments on which words that they remembered better, indicating that participants aren't sensitive to the difference between their recall on read and generated words. So going back up here to this first graph on the top, we can't say that those who were switching strategies between block 1 and block 2 were doing so to increase their recall for read words to match those of the generated, just that they noticed that their recall was low overall in the first block, and they were just switching strategies to increase their recall overall. And so in conclusion, participants don't have any explicit metacognitive awareness of the generation effect. However, they do have an overall awareness of their performance in general. And so there was one limitation with this study, and this was with the placement of the strategy questions. So by asking participants about their strategies and which words that they felt that they remembered better at the end of the experiment, participants might not have access to the accurate judgments for those of the first block. And so with that, their judgments for the first block might be influenced by the performance on the second block. And so future studies could aim to get around this by asking strategies after each test or giving participants strategies after the first block. And so results from this study can help to guide and improve future research pertaining to learning in order to help generate new materials that can benefit the educational community. Thank you for listening.